It has been a big week in US news, and President Trump reaching an agreement now with European leaders on key issues ahead of his upcoming meeting with Vladimir Putin. They've decided on what Trump will not talk about, and part of that is territorial matters, which are to be handled directly between Ukraine and Russia, focusing instead on securing an immediate ceasefire. For more, let's bring in Oz Sultan, who's in Pennsylvania from Sultan Interactive Group. Great to see you. A high-stakes meeting. What are you expecting here?
You know, this is the first time we've had an international relations meeting like this on American soil in a very long period of time. There's a bunch of stuff at stake. The Donbass region, for example, which the Ukrainians are very afraid of being carved up. Crimea, obviously, which has been on the table for a long period of time. But the bigger piece of this is the long-term security guarantees from Russia, as well as what's going to happen in the aftermath of this with U.S. sanctions, as well as the renormalizing of relationships. Russia can't continue to spend the way they've been spending long term. So, you know, this is the tete-a-tete that hopefully results in something positive.
The issue is Russia kind of lives for these sorts of things, right? Like, this isn't the first time we've seen an issue here. They have what I call the Jam Brady problem, which is constantly screaming Marsha, Marsha, Marsha as the middle child. They always want to get in the news with the United States. Why would Putin end things?
I think the reason that they would want to end things is multifold. Number one, they're running out of capital. Two, they're running out of people. I mean, they're at the point where they've been bringing mercenaries in from Northern Africa as well as China, and we've seen even North Korean troops that have been captured on the border. And then at the same point in time, you know, the normalization of relations would rebalance things inside. Things have gotten expensive in America. Things have gotten exceedingly more expensive in Russia. They're running out of human capital. They're running out of resources. And we are one of the biggest trading partners for things like grain. So, you know, that I think is the bigger piece of this. The hegemony piece of this, which is what it was always alluded to, calling Ukraine little Russia, as he has for a long period of time. That's really what's on the table.
Let's have a listen to President Trump. He was speaking a little earlier.
We're going to meet with, I would say, the second meeting. If the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately, and we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself, if they'd like to have me there. And that would be a meeting where maybe it could be absolutely work. But the first meeting will not work that out. Certain great things can be gained in the first. It's going to be a very important meeting.
Really interesting to hear the president being so open about what he's expecting in the lead up to it. What do you think of that tactic?
You know, I think it's smart because you're never going to get anything out of Putin in one meeting. Yeah, he's always going to want to save face. You're dealing with different cultures here. You're also dealing with completely different agendas. Putin has a hegemonical goal here, as well as really kind of crushing the Ukrainian spirit. Trump is really looking for an end to this war, a satisfaction of the community, and a rebalancing of trade, as well as a variety of other military, relations inside of the region. Russia wants to sell oil to India. Trump's already put the kibosh on that, but it's sort of slow moving. So, you know, at least for the first time diplomatically in years, we have all the levers being played with. Now, how that plays out is yet to be, you know, made at the table in Russia in the coming days.
It's interesting because both leaders have a lot to gain and a lot to lose. From President Trump, obviously he went to the election saying he'd be able to solve this within a day. For President Putin, he is a strong man, and Russians want a strong man in that leadership position. If he's seen to be weak or walking away from that special military operation, his days could be numbered as well, right?
You know, you kind of have to consider the fact of what he did to his last competitor. The guy ended up dying in prison. You know, I think the alternate parties that come up inside of Russia don't necessarily have that much traction. We also don't have, the heir apparents like you did in the 90s, there's no Zhirinovsky that's, puttering around in the wings to kind of take his place. And then at the same point in time, there's the big consideration of his legacy, right? If he cleans this up, he makes it look good, it makes his legacy look good. If he lets this continue to turn into the debacle it is and runs out of people to fight and continues to start having to use Koreans and Africans and that sort of a thing, well, it's just pie in his face that I just don't think he wants. And so this may be a call by Trump for him to save face and to fix things. But again, yet to be seen because there's multiple things at the table, lots of levers to be played with here.
Yeah, very much so. When we have a look at the fact that the first meeting is happening at an Air Force base in Alaska, firstly, what does that tell us about the fact that it has to be at an Air Force base and the fact that it's happening in Alaska?
Well, it tells us that we don't really trust Russians on our soil. That's what it tells you. But above and beyond that, I think it says, look, this is the first open meeting we've had on American soil of any Russian diplomat for these types of negotiations in, I would say, really since World War II, right? Since almost Yalta, when we had American diplomats and Russian diplomats meeting here. And that's a big step forward. But beyond that big step forward, it also allows for America to talk about concessions that could happen on the trade side and the sanctions side. Listen, the SWIFT banking system, they were kicked off of it. All of that's being replaced by ISO 20022 as of July. So if there's an opening for Russia to re-enter the financial systems, at the same time reducing sanctions and opening the doors for them to sell oil to India, I think they might capitulate. But with Putin, everything's a wild card. It's like that one friend of yours at a party who might get drunk and break a table. So it's yet to be seen.
I think you know my friends pretty well there, Oz. When we talk about the situation with the meeting, right, it's one thing to have President Trump and President Putin in the room. There does appear to be some level of mutual respect, even birthday wishes, etc. But what happens the second that Putin and Zelensky get in a room together? Could all that hard work between the two presidents of the US and Russia all be for nothing? Because it's quite clear that Zelensky and Putin see things completely different.
The way I'm kind of looking at this is it's like Trump and Putin are the two, estranged parents that are meeting at the private boarding school for their son that likes to spend money that was sent to him to buy Bugattis for his wife and, have questionable use of HIMARS military weaponry that we've sent him alongside, questionable use of funds. So there's a little bit of accounting that can come to pass with this, but I only think that's so much leverage. The big piece of this really comes up to how do you carve up the pie, right? And at the end of the day, the Donbass region, Crimea, those are the two pieces of the pie he's saying he's not willing to give up. But if we can give nuclear security, guarantees to Zelensky inside of this, then I think we've got some, major opportunities to end this war and move forward.
What about NATO from here? Because NATO obviously has been the key issue that began all of this, and the concern from Russia is always that that thin line of countries is evaporating, and it has. You've got Sweden, you've got Finland, you've got Poland, and many of these countries are now very distrusting of Russia. Should it all come to an end and should the war in Ukraine finalise, how can the Europeans ever trust Vladimir Putin?
Don't necessarily have to. For the first time since World War II, we didn't just tell NATO countries that you got to pony up your 2%, which we have been offsetting for decades. You have the opportunity to rearm. And, if you look at countries like Germany, they've had their Bundeswehr practicing with wooden weapons, okay? They are completely at odds with the reality of what a physical war would entail. But I think the opportunity here is twofold. One, we rearm Europe to a degree, which is always dangerous because, there's always some guy with bratwurst that wants to start a war. But we're hoping that doesn't happen in the near future. But at the same point in time, it creates so I think what we're going to have to do is peace through strength. And that peace through strength is going to come not just through us, but with the European powers coming into play.
All right, I was Sultan there in Pennsylvania. Always appreciate your insights. Big weekend ahead. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, and hello from Harry's Hot Dogs.
Enjoy.